remember this little guy, right? This is the Maximum Defense MD15. There's a full video out on this thing, but real quick, this is a really tiny SBR that crushes up into this super small compact package. And whenever I'm running something short, I like to have some kind of device on the front to keep my hand from going into the danger zone, so to speak. Now, this gun did come with a little tiny hand stop up front, which was adequate, but I like something a little bit more substantial. And what I've put on this gun that I wanted to show you guys here today is the Medieval Industries forward grip. Now, this thing looks somewhat innocuous. It looks like, oh, well, cool. It looks like a well-knurled vertical grip, right? Well, with a quick flick of the wrist here, sorry. Let's say, for instance, that we didn't want a vertical foregrip, but instead we wanted a angled foregrip. Well, we can just simply move it in line right like that and generate ourselves an angled foregrip. The other thing that I've used these things for previously are on pump shotguns. Just loosen that up right like that. And then you've got an outboard pump position right like this. This is fairly comfortable, particularly if you're talking about a heavier gun. I've also used these previously on like crew serve machine guns. You take this and they make like a pick rail version. This one's the M-Lock variant. Goes right on top, and then you've got your grip right on top to have a incidental carry handle. And speaking of carry handles, if you just wanted to stow this thing out of the way, then you could line it up right like that. Tension it down and you've got a nice hand swell there. But if you wanted to quickly just generate yourself another point of contact there, then right like that. And it's, of course, adjustable for whatever angle you wanted, so it doesn't have to be straight vertical. It could be very easily just slightly outboard, say if you had to hold a position over top of a car or something like that for an hour at a time. Whatever ergonomic adjustment you want to make, it's easily done with this particular grip. So let's go ahead and hop into the anatomy of how this works. Before we get super carried away on disassembly, if you look here, you can see there's some geometry there for use of tools, flathead screwdriver or Phillips, and that allows you to tension this down because this is a storage compartment. And same thing here. Take this off, and we have O-rings located there and there. We reach down inside there, there is a tension ring, and that butts up against the ball bearing that's down inside here, and that tension keeps the thing locked in whatever position it is. So it's aluminum on aluminum tension together, and it causes a binding, and that's what holds the thing into position. So if I take this thing and throw it back together really quick, and I'm going to go ahead and tension this thing down. This is inconsequential for this test, but we'll put it like that. And your question might be, well, Kurt, how strong is that tension lock? I'm pushing pretty hard right now. Maybe 50% as hard as I can push. Let's take it. Okay, so about 75% of as hard as I can possibly push. We'll start to push that down. So it's pretty strong as far as retention of its position that you put it in is concerned. The last thing I'm going to point out on the forward grip is if you look here and here, there are some threaded ports. That is a Picatinny rail. That allows a guy or gal, if they so choose, to attach a weapon light. Now that does two things. It does not take up any of the valuable real estate I would call precious real estate on a gun this short, for instance, and it also drops it below the bore so it is readily accessible if you are using the forward grip. But wait, there's more. There's all manner of fire control angles as far as the grip back here is concerned. Right now this is somewhat reminiscent of what you're going to call your like standard AR grip, and it was conceived to shoot back when guys shot like this for marksmanship purposes, right? And that allows the forearm here to be nice and straight. But if we take a squared up position like this, you can see it torques my wrist in a position that's less than comfortable. Well, if we just take the Medieval Industries grip right like this and flip it around to a more vertical position, then now we have something that is more closely approximating the more vertical grip designed for this. You can see my wrist is much straighter now. In fact, if we were to take this and compare it to that one, it looks pretty close, right? We've all run into this one before where the sandbag or whatever rest that we're using to zero is lower than the standard capacity magazine, right? So we'll just switch that out to a reduced capacity magazine to be able to get the rifle down on whatever barrier it is. Well, we've also got a height problem here. So if we were to rotate the medieval out of the way, well, that allows us to get even lower, more contact of the rifle on the bag with the table, and thus a more stable shooting position. So after spending some time with the medieval grip, I would say that I believe that medieval has done their homework on the tension of the tension lock in this thing. You don't want it to be flaccid, right? You don't want to be jerking the gun around, the thing just collapse on you and pinch your hand, or you lose your gun or whatever, right? But you also don't want it to be so stiff that if you've got it for whatever reason locked into a different orientation, say something like this, and you take off running down a hallway or something like that, you don't want it to be so stiff that this gets caught on something and then clotheslines you with your own gun, right? Simultaneously, you don't want it so stiff that it's just going to break itself. So if you have the ability to have it rotate out of the way under extreme circumstances, then I think that that's a good balance. Now, I would say that the module is optimized for forward grip, and this is where I'm going to get to my really only critique of the grip, and that is this feels really good as a forward grip. When I go to the grip for the pistol region, I find it to be a little bit thin, and what I mean by that is if I were to volumetrically analyze that and that, this is beefier, and I think you can see that, right? It just takes up more space. So I have really big hands, and this just, it feels a little bit thin. So I would say that in future iterations, while this is adequate, I would like to see a girthier offering from medieval to fill this out a little bit for those of us with big sausage fingers. But anyway, I would like to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you're looking for something that adds a little bit of diversity to your builds and some options, so to speak, for how you're using it incidentally in the field, then definitely keep Medieval Industries in mind. Special thanks to them for sending this out for testing, and hopefully we'll see you on another video here at the VSO Gun Channel.